All right, ready? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Hey, everybody, welcome back to, well, it's not welcome back. This is like Chalkboard history bonus episode. Bella's in the background.
Deaf.
The sound of my voice blasting through her headphones. So we are filming at Ripavilla. We are filming the day after the 2024 presidential election. Pat already looks uncomfortable. Joseph, he could not be here today. He is somewhere lost in the woods, upset at the results.
Emotionally fragile.
Emotionally fragile. So we're carrying on in his absence. Pat Landrum, one-time employee of the Battle of Franklin Trust, worked at Carnton, refused to work at Carter House.
No, I worked there after y'all put air conditioning in.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You gave a few tours over there. So we're going to talk a little bit about the 160th anniversary events, but particularly a living history that you are heading up that is going to be at Carnton. So take it away. Tell us what's going on.
So we're going to, the primary reason that I was always into Carnton and the eastern flank was because of Loring's division. So we're going to be recreating the 3rd Mississippi Infantry. Actually, we have more people registered than were actually in the regiment.
How many? How many registered?
There's 275. So, you factor in dropouts and math and everything like that, we'll probably have, 190 or 200 guys there.
And how many were in the regiment at the time of the battle? 200?
It's either between 140 or 170.
It was really that small?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we'll be out there issuing rations, doing drill, firing demos, and then at night there'll be people there portraying citizens of Franklin.
What are the dates?
December, 5th through the 7th.
5th through the 7th.
Yeah. I'm probably wrong on that.
We better look on our... Yeah. Let's all look at our phones together. So the reason that we're doing that's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
It's the 6th through the 8th.
Okay, 6th through the 8th. Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yep.
Well, you can see how well prepared we are. Hey, at least we're honest. We're not scripted. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 6, 7, 8. It's a week after the battle. So why are we doing it a week after the battle?
Well, I think that a lot gets lost, especially from the citizens' perspective, in my opinion, that, the battle happens the next morning, everybody gets up and leaves. And that's not the case. So it's really like it's really a citizens event with a military problem to me, because at night you guys are opening the house. There's going to be, we have the count of who was in the house. There's going to be that number of guys laying around, convalesced. It's not a blood and gore situation. It's just guys that are wounded. Mm-hmm. And, I think that's an important story to tell that people just forget about, especially when you're just studying the militaristic portion of the war, or even, in my case, doing living histories. It's kind of easy to go, all right, happened on November 30th, 1864. December 1st, everybody woke up, Hood declared victory, and then they went off to Nashville. And
right.
It's just kind of shining more light on the house was significant before November 30th, 1864, and it was significant to a lot of people after it. So it's kind of continuing on with that story.
So some of you may remember we did an event at Carnton where we had, it was really the night of the battle, and we had wounded in the house on the first floor, and people kind of came in through the back, went out the front. And that was really, really well received. And I've been asked countless times through the years, are we ever going to do that again? And the answer is no, because I don't think you can, certain things you can't replicate.
No,
and so the
lightning
second
in a bottle.
Right. So the second time ends up being kind of just a redo, or it's actually kind of a cheaper version of the original. So I like this because it's not the night of. It's the days that follow. So before we get into maybe a little more about what you're going to do, let's talk about the regiment itself. What about the 3rd Miss can you tell us, or what about the unit is really interesting? By the way, Pat's from Mississippi.
Yeah. So
he's a refugee here in Tennessee.
For me, predominantly, it's a regiment that was raised where I grew up. So if you read Grady Howell's book, he draws a lot of his source material from Frederick Searle Hughes.
To Live and Die in Dixie.
Yep. And Frederick Searle Hughes' descendant is actually who my son and I are named after. So, I was just kind of, you'd go to a cemetery anywhere in South Mississippi and you'd run across somebody from Company E or, Shieldsboro Rifles. I mean, there's one of the orderly sergeant for Company H is buried in a cemetery right down the road from my mom's house. So it was one that you could reach out and touch. Mm-hmm. When my dad started doing living histories back in 1988 and participating in reenactments and everything, that was a regiment that was a group that he joined. So it was just kind of, I met guys that I'm still friends with now, like Brian DeRoche. He was in that group growing up. And, it just became kind of an idea, like, we've done stuff at the Carter House, we've done stuff at Loring's and, or at Carnton. I just actually wanted to do a program representing like a regiment that I grew up, I guess, idolizing, for lack of a better phrase. Mm-hmm. And, they're kind of, it's kind of a weird story because they're in a lot of places, but they don't really do a whole lot, for the majority of the war.
Till 1864.
Yeah, and they come up at Peachtree and, Colonel Mellon gets shot there and, never returns. But like, that's where they're just like demons and they get chewed up at Peachtree Creek. But I mean, they're at Vicksburg, they had their flag captured on the Mississippi Gulf Coast when the 12th Connecticut comes ashore around Pass Christian and raids their camp. But I mean, they were. It was one of those regiments that they were there, but they kind of weren't. Mm-hmm. And then they get through the Atlanta campaign and follow with Loring, up to Middle Tennessee.
Well, and there's a whole slew of those guys that are buried at Carnton.
Yeah.
And I know for me, when I was writing my first book, Featherston's brigade of Loring's division, so it was the 3rd Miss, the 22nd Mississippi, and the 33rd Mississippi, who'd all been at Peachtree Creek. Mm. And they just got ripped to shreds at Franklin. And I've had the opportunity to meet a few descendants through the years. And so I think it'll be great. So again, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So house is open Saturday night. What can people expect to see on Saturday night?
We're going to recreate a Confederate camp with documented flies and everything like that. So because of the time of year and because of our historic luck, it tends to rain. During the campaign, the guys did not have tonnage, but we're trying to cover guys because we can't sleep on the porch. We tore it up last time and I got in trouble.
So,
but they'll be able to come out, tour the camps, see the citizens set up, and then as far as like around the house goes, there's going to be women outside preparing food. There's going to be people inside preparing bandages, reading, taking letters. I think they're having like a letter writing symposium on like proper penmanship in the 19th century, like a class that they're going to be doing in the camp.
So before I forget, was this unit one of the Confederate regiments that got a bunch of new gear in the summer or fall of '64?
They drew clothing in right before Atlanta, but I don't think that they were doing issues in North Alabama of clothing,
right?
But I don't think that they're included. So they're ragged when they're getting into the state, going through that temperature. But we're going to be in as accurate uniforms as we can, especially for the Army at that point. They're probably drawn from several depots, and it'll look like the Army was supposed to look in 1864.
The reason I was asking is I think a lot of people assume the entire Confederate Army was either shoeless or in really bad shape, and I think probably a third to half of Hood's Army had really gotten a bunch of new gear, mm-hmm. like you said, in Alabama. But I think most of those guys were in Cheatham's Corps, not Stewart's Corps, which is where the 3rd Mississippi.
The adjutant, Lott
Sones?
Yeah. He writes a letter to Mellon when they're in Alabama, talking about, the lieutenant colonel the major was petitioning to go back to Mississippi and draw clothes from state stores, and mm-hmm. that was denied because of the campaign. So Sloan's writes a letter to Mellon, just kind of giving him an update, and that's where he's like, half the guys have shoes. There's maybe blanket for every third, and like nobody has an overcoat.
So Lot Soanes, he's one of the guys that isn't at Carnton. His body was taken back to East Bay St. Louis?
Yeah, he's buried in Old City Cemetery in Bay St.
Yeah,
Louis.
yeah, yeah. His family came and got him in the spring of
The one that always got
winter
me,
of 65, 66.
The one that always got me is actually grave marker 311, J.P. Elmer.
Uh-huh.
So he's
The captain.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
22.
I met his descendant.
Really? Yeah, Joey sent me that.
Hit with artillery fire.
Yeah, and 22 years old, and like I've been to. When I worked there, I would get there early. I would go out and drink coffee out by his grave because you read about it, and I think his dad immigrated in like 1843, and within 21 years, his sons died for the Confederacy, and the Biloxi Historical Society's actually got a lot of stuff on them online. But like I've been to his dad's grave. I mean, it's just, and you can flip a coin and hit 2 3rd Mississippi graves like right around where he's buried in the Old City Cemetery.
Color bearer of the 3rd Mississippi is mortally wounded at Franklin.
John Cherry.
Cherry. Who never knows what happened to that flag, because I'm sure that fell inside the works and probably ended up inside somebody's jacket and
the only one that they
went back to Indiana.
The only one that they have that survived from the 3rd was one that was captured, and it's got like the magnolia on it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know if it was in the Beauvoir collection during Katrina, and I don't know if it ended up in the Gulf or because they didn't move their collection, and that museum got whacked.
Yeah.
But
well, it'll be a great event because we've got a bunch of stuff obviously planned. We're filming this on, what is today, the 6th, so we've got a bunch of stuff planned over the next few weeks, and then Thanksgiving leads us right into the 29th and the 30th, and then so this will be a week later, and it's free to the public, so y'all can come out and interact with the guys, and then we'll have the house open like Pat said on Saturday night. So, anything else about 3rd Mississippi or the event?
We're doing a big preservation drive for this. That's a big thing with the majority of the groups that are involved in putting this together. So we're on track to probably give you guys, somewhere between $5,000 and $7,500.
Ooh, see, look at that. And so what we're going to do with that is we're going to buy more battlefield property because we're going to be closing on this hugely important tract of land not far from Carter House in the days before the anniversary. So that'll be part of another discussion. But all right, I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.